name's Jeff Chambers from the Mass Youth Board of Directors. I want to thank you all for attending today. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Tracy Jones, the Positive Coaching Alliance. Tracy focuses on mentoring coaches and athletic administrators, providing high-quality, positive sports experience for youth while ensuring equity and inclusion for youth and adults. After graduating from college, she began a coaching career that would span more than 25 years. Tracy holds a master's degree in education leadership and a USSF national coaching license. So please welcome Tracy Jones.
How about now? Oh, can you hear me now? Okay. Sorry, I'm an amateur with the mics. But actually today I've got a little bit of laryngitis, so forgive me if it comes across as all raspy. Anyway, I'm thrilled to be here on behalf of Positive Coaching Alliance. What we're going to do today is talk about culture as a functional tool for development. So you heard a little bit about my background, tons of coaching, been an administrator, played through college. I want to get a little bit of an idea about you all. So since there's so many of us, maybe just by a show of hands, tell me if you played sports as a kid. Right on. Okay, if you're coaching now, okay, raise your hand if you are brand new to coaching, like first year. Excellent. Been coaching 5 years or less? 10 years or less? 15 years or less? 20? 25? 30? Nice. 35? Awesome. All right, that's great. Thank you so much. Another quick question for you. How many of you are familiar with Positive Coaching Alliance? Anybody had a class? All right. Fantastic. All right. We do a text to sign-in process, and I'm going to put the slide up at the end to ask you to sign in, and that gets you access to our digital resources. So I really encourage you to do it. All we ask for is your first name, last name, and an email address, and we do not we do not share it, rent it, or sell your information. It's just for us to communicate with you directly with coaching resources, newsletter, that kind of thing. So I really encourage you to sign in at the end, and also it helps us get a really good idea of how many people we work with so that we can use that information to go and get additional resources to expand our reach into even more and more communities. So thank you for being here today. I just want to start off with sort of some thoughts, questions to think about, a little bit of a discussion from you all. It's a workshop very intentionally. I hope that you guys will participate, ask questions, throw ideas out. There's no wrong answers. It just makes our conversation even more rich, okay? So first question, why do you coach? Anybody? Spend a lot of time doing it. Why do you do it? Yeah? Your daughters? Fantastic. Okay. You enjoy the challenge? Excellent. Others, yeah? You learn a lot out of it. Excellent. Like what? Fantastic. Okay. So you never played, but... Excellent. Okay. Great. Thanks. Mm-hmm. Okay. So you had great coaches and you wanted to sort of give back, inspire younger kids. I love that. Anyone else? Yeah. Nice and loud. A little bit louder? Better yourself and make better people. Love it. Okay. Why do you coach the way you coach? Lots of us played sports as kids, right? Why do you coach the way you coach? So the kids have a positive experience? Okay. Want to see players grow as people and as players. Others? I'm sorry, way in the back. Yeah, nice and loud. A lot of kids these days are not getting enough positive reinforcement in their lives. Absolutely. Saw a hand here, yeah. So you want to instill in them a joy for the game? Excellent. And then they can spread it around, give back. Love that. So what would your athletes say about the way that you coach? Yeah. Love it. Loud, enthusiastic, and supportive. What else? What do you think they'd say? Yeah. Help them understand the game. Excellent. Yeah. Love that. I'm a tough coach, but they'll play for me anytime. Right? Anything else? Okay. Keep those sort of questions in mind, ruminating on those things as we talk about culture today, okay? So at PCA, we think about youth sports as a development zone culture. And that includes, all the way up through high school, okay? We want to get everybody on the same page, all the constituencies involved in youth sports, right? And talk in the same language so that we can create that development zone culture, right? It's not about like a microcosm of the professional leagues. Youth sports is about developing kids, right? So we have those single goal leaders, right? There's your administrator. They are in charge of shaping the culture and defending that culture. Double goal coaches, right? 2 equally important goals, teaching kids to strive to win, and teaching life lessons, right? Second goal parents, big influence and big impact on youth sports. We want them to focus on that second goal of the double goal coach, right? Leave the coaching, right? The playing time, the X's and O's, leave that to the coach and the kids. But really help your kids absorb those life lessons, right? And then last of all, but not least of all, for sure, the athletes. We call them triple impact competitors. We want them to work to better themselves, their teammates, and the sport, okay? So we call this a development zone culture. We use the word culture very specifically. What is culture? When you hear that word, we talk about it a lot, like what is it? Any ideas? Yeah. Acceptable way people interact. For sure, yep. Expectations, yes. What else? Yeah. The goals and the environment in which you strive for them. Yep. What else? Culture sometimes can be one of these sort of like big, unwieldy concepts, includes a lot of stuff, right? Sometimes I think about it like team chemistry, like you know it when you got it, but you're not really sure what it's made up of, right? It can be values, it can be beliefs, it can be expectations, it can be acceptable behaviors, right? Goals, all those things. At PCA, we like to say it's the way we do things here. Right? Really helpful for kids to understand it that way. It's just the way we do things here. Right? And so that's how we can reinforce it. We're clear about what those things are, but it helps them understand. Maybe if they push a boundary or they step outside, that's not really the way we do things here, remember? Right? Okay. So think about your team culture. What values do you believe are important to your team culture? Or what are the things that you want to be part of your team culture? Anybody? Sorry? Respect for each other in the game. Excellent. Yes. Unity. Love it. Pardon? Work ethic. Excellent. Did you have one?
Sure, I'll take it from one of the books I read.
Respect
Respect for roots.
for roots. What are roots?
You know what that means? It's in Jim's first book.
I know what it means.
You know what it means?
Yeah.
You just want me to say it?
Yeah.
Respect for rules, opponents, ourselves, our teammates, and self.
Officials. But close, yeah. He said respect for roots, and we're going to talk a little bit about this. But basically, roots is an acronym that stands for respect for the rules, officials, opponents, teammates, and self. Right? That's part of important for him to have as part of his culture. Excuse me. Other things. Here's some examples. Right? If you have a younger team, maybe it's something as simple as being on time, showing up with the right equipment. Right? That's important. Right? Starts to get them into good habits. Okay? Respecting officials could be in there. Having fun. Right? Is there anything in there that you don't think is important to have in your particular culture? Anything? Anything you'd add to that? Some of the things I heard of? Anything that just jog your memory of a new idea? Yeah? Sorry, hold on. Sportsmanship, love it.
I guess I always tell my high school boys, it's like you represent the team no matter where you are, whether you're out in the public, it's like you still are wearing Westwood High School soccer hats.
Right, yep.
Those things all should be transpired. You should be able to see those things, not just while you're with me, but while you're out.
Yeah, you represent our team, our group, wherever you go, right? So you should be sort of holding up that culture, those values, whether you're here at practice or whether you're downtown, having a hamburger with your friends, or in school, or at church, like wherever you are, right? Carries over. Okay? It's important to be intentional about your culture. Okay? Doesn't have to be 500 things. In fact, it's best if it's a shorter list, depending on what age you're working with, right? 3 to 5. Because what you want to do is really weave those into everything that happens with your team, okay? If you're not intentional about your culture, oftentimes other influences will determine your team's culture, for better or for worse, okay? So it's worth taking a few minutes to think about, what are the things that are important to me? Write them down, right? Because as I said, we're going to talk about how you're going to weave those into everything that you do, okay? So when we have a positive youth sport culture, right, our athletes feel safe, seen, heard, and valued, right? And that promotes best performance, okay? So creating that positive culture is so important. Again, it transfers to their performance, right? And creates a culture where everyone on that team feels valued. They're important, right? More importantly, they feel safe, okay? All right, so PCA's model of coaching is the double goal coach model. 2 equally important goals, right? Teaching kids to strive to win and teaching life lessons, right? You can do both, okay? All right, so there are 3 basic principles in this double goal coach model, okay? Elm tree of mastery, filling emotional tanks, and honoring the game, okay? I'm going to talk really briefly about these today as they relate to our conversation about culture, but you can find more information about this stuff on our website, and I'll give you that information as well at the end. With the Elm Tree of Mastery, that is the performance piece, okay? ELM is an acronym. You'll find there are a few acronyms that we use, right? When we think about performance, let's compare a couple different definitions of success, right? So a pretty common definition is what we call scoreboard definition, right? Concerned with results. Are we winning, are we losing? Oftentimes comparing yourself with others, whether it's an opponent, whether it's a teammate maybe that plays the same position, right? Mistakes are not okay in this definition of success, because if we're making mistakes, we're not winning. Safe to say? Fair enough? Okay. We propose an alternate definition of success. We call it mastery, okay? Instead of worrying about the results, you're worried about the process. We call it effort. There's your E, okay? How hard am I working? Okay, I can control my own effort. Instead of comparing myself with others, I'm concerned about my own learning, right? Am I a better player today than I was yesterday? How coachable am I? Am I willing to try new things? Okay? We say mistakes are okay in a mastery definition. Can you have success if mistakes are okay? Yeah? How so? It's how you learn. In fact, you have to have mistakes in order to learn. Okay, so we talk about learning from mistakes for sure, but what do you do next, right? How do you respond? How do you react? What do you do next? Okay? With this mastery definition of success, these are all things that kids can control, right? I cannot control the scoreboard myself, but I can control how hard I work. I can control my own attitude toward learning, trying new things, being coachable, and I can control how I respond to mistakes, right? Research shows that when you focus on the controllables, the things you can control, your anxiety goes down and your performance goes up. Okay, again, trying to create an environment for peak performance. Okay, all right. Second principle we call filling emotional tanks. All right, think about it like a gas tank. Every human being has an emotional tank. It fluctuates up and down all day depending on interactions, things that happen, right? How many of you have ever coached a kid with an empty emotional tank? I bet all of you, right? You can see them coming a mile away, right? You might see the body language, not really that energetic, not really into it, right? How about an athlete with a full tank? Yeah, what's that like? It's pretty fun, right? Yeah, they're enthusiastic, easy to coach, want to learn more, do more, right? Maybe they're even running around collecting the balls at the end, right? Emotional tank impacts behavior and performance, okay? I like to think about the emotional tank like self-esteem, self-confidence. It is what powers performance. It's very rare, if not impossible, to perform your best when your emotional tank is empty, okay? We as coaches can impact whether our athletes have a full or empty emotional tank, okay? All right, research actually shows that there's a magic ratio which creates the most productive learning environment of tank fillers to tank drainers, right? Things that fill an emotional tank versus things that drain an emotional tank. Does 5-to-1 seem high, low? What do you think? How many of you think that you hit this 5-to-1 ratio at practice on a, overall basis? As a coach, you are hitting a 5-to-1 ratio in terms of the number of tank fillers to tank drainers that you are talking to your kids about, like coaching them. Think you hit it? Say that a little bit louder. Yeah. There's a lot of ways to tank fill and tank drain, right? But the thing to think about is that with human nature, those criticisms, right, tank drainers, are a lot more impactful than the tank fillers. Think about human nature, right? We're waiting for someone to say, that was really great, but we're waiting for the correction, the criticism, right? So you need to have sort of 5 times as many tank fillers as tank drainers, which I think about as correction or things that kids feel as negative, okay? It seems like a lot, but remember our body language. This is the biggest message I want to send coaches. Remember your body language, right? Tell me if you think this is a tank filler or a tank drainer. Drainer, right? Kids can hear that 1,000 miles away, right? Other side of the field. How about this one? Massive difference. Right? I didn't say a word. Okay? If you have positive body language and you're teaching your kids positive body language, right? They're high-fiving each other, they're smiling, they're supporting each other, you're going to hit that 5-to-1, right? You don't have to string together 5 compliments before you can get that correction in that you're dying to make. Okay? But think about being supportive, filling up those emotional tanks, because if my emotional tank's empty, I can't try something new, take a risk I'm going to fail, respond or rebound from that mistake I just made for the 5,000th time, right? I need to feel confident. I need coach to say, I know you got this. You're fine. Keep going. We got you. Okay? All right. Last one we call honoring the game. Here's those roots we were talking about, right? Here's our acronym roots. We think about this as like a robust concept of sportsmanship, but it's about respect, teaching kids about respect. Respect for the rules of the game, respect for opponents, respect for officials, teammates, and self. Okay? Depending on what age group you're working with, maybe you just pick one of these. If you're working with older kids, maybe you're going to work on all of them. Okay? All right. So let's talk about this notion of culture. How do we build it? It's all great to say, yeah, who doesn't want a positive team culture, but like, how do you do it, right? How do you do it?
I really try to have my girls understand that winning is very important. However, being together, supporting each other, being there for each other is really what comes out in the end. There's not many girls that are going to turn into professional lacrosse players, and the life lessons you can learn through lacrosse are really important. So when coaching, I work a lot with team building, team bonding. We have wingmen. You get, someone on the team that is in your position, or someone in a different grade that you don't necessarily see a lot, and you work together, and you're that person that's got to be there for them to fill their tank when they're down in a game or down in practice, or just even give them a little note before a game to pump them up. So it's nice to have the culture of everyone's can be a part of, not just the starters or the goal scorers, or everyone is able to really put something towards the team culture.
So what's the value in her culture? Everybody contributes, everyone's important, right? Okay. So we said culture is the way we do things here, right? What we say, what we do, and what we reward sends messages to kids about what's important to us. Okay? So, how can you build culture? Let's talk about things that you can say and do. Think about those values in your head about culture, some of the things that are important to you. Maybe you have a signature statement, right? Slogan, mantra. What do you want your team to be known for? Right? You can develop cue words, right? Which are words that you can use to send a message to your team in the middle of a game about what you're looking for. Maybe it's a communication about a specific strategy change, but maybe it's just you want to reinforce to them, hey, we're fourth quarter teams, we're fine, this is where we raise our level. Okay? It's a shorthand communication that you have with your team. Okay? Here's some examples of signature statements that some teams have had. Hustle and heart set us apart, right? Wildcat pride. Victory begins on the inside. Some wish for it, we work for it. One team, one dream. Anybody use a signature statement like this? Can be really powerful, sort of like a team motto for the year. Can be helpful to get your kids involved in it. Yeah. Another good one. Yep, another good one. Okay, kids can rally around signature statements, right? But remember, has to be important, has to be relevant, has to send the message that you want, and you're constantly tying it back to specific things that they're doing, right, that you're looking for, okay? All right, so let's talk about cue words. Do your words concisely reinforce the actions that you're looking for? Again, could be technical, right? These are the names of different plays. Could be mental. 4, we're a fourth quarter team. Coach yells out 4, that means, hey, we're on to this, we raise our level. Get uncomfortable is the coach's sort of message for saying, like, keep pushing, keep getting out of your comfort zone, keep taking risks. Right? Flush it is one that lots of people use for mistakes. Anybody here use a mistake ritual? Way in the back, excellent. What's yours? Throw it in the woods, right? Again, it's a mental or physical gesture that helps kids reset after a mistake. So flush it, brush it off, throw it in the woods, let it go, move forward. Yeah. Next play, fabulous. Celtics had a mistake ritual. It was next play. Even those guys, right? They make a mistake, something doesn't go their way, the negative thoughts get in there. They're thinking about the last play and not thinking about the most important play, which is the next play. Okay? Here is Steve Kerr talking about how he developed his culture with the Golden State Warriors.
When I got into coaching, I sought a lot of advice from other coaches, and I went and visited Pete Carroll because I always loved watching Pete's teams play. They had this great joy about them. And so I had a lot of ideas, and Pete said to me, well, how are you going to coach your team? And I said, well, you mean like what offense are we? He said, no, I mean, how are you going to coach your team? What's important to you? And I said, well, there's a lot of stuff that's important to me. He said, well, pick 10 principles or ideals that are really important to you, and then narrow it down to 4, And then every day's got to reflect those 4 values. So, those are really our core values, which a lot of companies have core values. But the key, which Pete talked about a lot, was every day has to reflect that. So joy is one of our principles. We try to inject joy and fun and laughter into our practice every day. Competition, we want to keep score of everything. Compassion. Brad is as good at this as anybody. Understanding that the 15th guy on the team and the first guy on the team both have a lot of pressure on them, right? Understand each player's circumstances, understand their life, understand what motivates them, what is challenging for them, and show the compassion to each one of your players and your coaches that eventually it all sort of comes together with, whatever your ideals are. If you can have them reflected in your daily routine, then that becomes the culture that everyone talks about. But it takes the players to really build that culture. I think you have to instill whatever those values are, and then the players take ownership of the team within that culture, and it grows from there, and that's what makes it fun.
You surprised to hear that an NBA team, part of their culture is joy? Right? We have video of them playing wiffle ball at practice in the gym for fun, right? The fun factor is really important. Don't underestimate that part, okay? Okay. So, what you reward. What are the actions that you value on your team? Let's talk about this. Name some actions that you value. Yeah? Positive attitude. Excellent. Hard work. Effort. Taking risks. Excellent. Teammates supporting each other. Fantastic. Yeah. Accountability. Excellent. So how do you reward your athletes when they display these actions? Do you? Acknowledge it. How?
Great job, good attitude up there, sort of call it out.
Call it out in front of the team. Excellent. How else? They pick the next activity. Excellent. How else? Yeah? So you have like a mid-season check-in. Pizza's always good. Any food? It's always a big hit. I like it. How else? What? Demonstrating it. Tell me more.
You have to, if you want that kind of behavior, you have to by using that your practice.
So like modeling what you want to see? Excellent. Yeah. Yeah, in the back. Yep. No. Because kids would like to do everything with music on, right? You find that? Yeah. I'm like, how can we be, you can't even hear me. We don't care, we just want music, right? Okay, but using it as a reward, fantastic. Okay? All right. Measure what matters most to you and what athletes can control. Okay? So, maybe most valuable teammate, if that is part of your culture, right? Encouraging kids to be a good teammate, to make their teammates better, right? Support them. Maybe they help out at practice, maybe they're, right? Dirty shirt, grassy knuckles, like effort awards, right? What in soccer can we measure that's like an effort award? Tackles one. Excellent. What else? Anything else? First to the ball. Taking someone on. Yep, love it. Right? Sort of non-traditional things, but if this is stuff that you're working on, you've been emphasizing, notice it, measure it, and then circle back and say, hey, so-and-so, this many, right, we're working on one-on-ones. She took someone on in this game this many times. Right, what we see, what we notice, what we talk about, what we reward, right? Are there non-traditional, sort of effort-related actions that aren't going to show up on a stat sheet, that aren't about goals, saves, assists, corners, right? Think about some other things that relate right back to your culture, right? If your culture is hard work, that's effort. Find ways to notice it and talk about it and reward it, okay? Kids know what's important to us by what we notice, what we talk about, and what we reward, okay? All right, here's a great example of an alternate award, I think.
Today, we are going to introduce an award. It's called the Sugar Shaker Award. It's going to go to the most valuable teammate. The purpose of the Sugar Shaker Award is to really create an opportunity for the girls to recognize each other and recognize the play and hard work that they put into every practice and every game. So what does sugar do for you?
It's sweet.
It's sweet, right? And that's what the most valuable teammate does. Most valuable teammate makes you sweeter. It makes that one little play that you do a little bit sweeter. It makes you better as a player. It makes you want to be at practice. So this is going to be awarded at the end of practice to the player who made us all better, and you guys will get the opportunity to vote. All right, here we go. Ready? Play. Nice, that's it. Perfect. Way to get open, way to get open, way to work around. That's it. Well done. Think about for a quick second who maybe pushed you, who you think made the team better today, and who will get the Sugar Shaker Award.
I nominate Sydney because she motivated me to do better.
I nominate Zeri because she always pushed me to go harder because she was going really hard. So she was a good example.
It helps them look and find other parts of the game they might not otherwise see that are just as valuable in creating success on the field. Hands down, eyes open, Sugar Shaker Award goes to Sydney.
That she values, that she told them about, right? And it allows for other kids to sort of get in on the praise and feeling valued, right? They can control what kind of a teammate they are, how hard they work, how much they support their teammates, right? Okay. We've lost contact here. Okay. So here's a quick toolkit, things we talked about, right? Signature statements, cue words, and rewarded actions. Okay? All right. So how do we build this into our practices, right? Because it needs to be consistent, this messaging, right, and this modeling. This is where your team culture is created, okay? So if you have a new coach who comes to you and says they're having trouble at practice getting the athletes to, to focus. Anybody had this happen? Yeah. Energy's low, they're not improving. What advice would you give this coach to improve the quality of their practice? Play a fun game that's not related to your sport. Love it. Someone over here? Nope. What advice would you give them? Kids can be tough, yeah. So coach getting involved in the activity themselves, yeah, that tends to raise the energy level. I like that. What else? Yeah. Get input from your players or those players, for sure. Yep. Yeah.
Engaging. We start practice a lot of times with tag games, chase games, having fun. Sometimes you can relate it directly to the exercise.
Yeah. Excellent. Make it engaging, okay? So for new coaches, right, identify your objectives and priorities for practice, have a written plan, and get prepared, right? Have some alternatives, right? All right.
My
Sorry, folks.
first rule is to stay grounded, and I don't really just say attitude of gratitude. I model attitude of gratitude because any of these opportunities, whether an injury could come, or something can happen in a family, or you're just not allowed to play anymore. So I think that when you have the opportunity to play, you should approach it every day in a happy way. At the same time, I think it's important for our players to understand that you have to put in work. And if you're not putting in that work, that very thing that you want sometimes can be taken away.
Our energy is contagious, right? So you want to check in and see what kind of energy are you bringing also to practice. All right, so let's talk about components of a dynamic practice. A lot of these things you may already be doing, okay? But let's think about it in terms of where you can build in culture, okay? So, opening ritual instruction, skills and drills, conditioning, scrimmage, tank filling, team conversations, closing ritual, and then assessment happens after practice separately. All right, so that opening ritual, we all have one, hopefully, right? It's important to have a transition ritual for you as the coach as well as the kids, right? Oftentimes it involves movement, right? They jog together. They stretch in a circle, right? Add some fun. Gives them a great chance to check in with each other, right? And for coaches, you want to be on the lookout for kids with empty tanks, right? Check in with all of them. How are you doing? What's going on? Try to find out a little bit about them so that you can ask if you know they have a tough test or if you know when their birthdays are, right? Check in with them, see how they're doing, right? Player of the day can be something that you're looking for. We think of player of the day as that player that really needs some tank filling that day, right? You see a kid that's really dragging or you know that they've had a rough day, they become the player of the day. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later, okay? But it's a great opportunity to kind of get the lay of the land, check in with your kids, give them some time to have a little fun, talk to each other, but get some movement in, okay? All right, instruction, we all do this, right? We want to make sure it's age appropriate. Can you make it fun, right? Can you keep them moving all the time, right? And then appropriate to what age they are. Can you ask rather than tell? Pose problems instead of just giving answers, right? Maybe it's after a game. What did you guys see in the game? What do you think we need to do differently? How do you think we should work on that, right? Give them a little bit of agency if they're older, right? Okay? Skills and drills, right? Keep everyone engaged. We talked about that. Create just right challenges. Again, depending on what age you're working with. Sometimes it's against the clock. Sometimes it's against an opponent, right? Sometimes it's against a standard. Consequences, I think, are really important to talk about, right? They should be age appropriate. I'm a huge proponent of short and sweet, right? You don't want to be punishing kids for their mistakes or failure or not winning in a practice drill, right? Consequences are important because it motivates them, right? I'm a huge fan of star jumps. Everyone can do them. You can do them fast and get back in it, right? So there is a consequence, but it's not punitive, okay? Short and sweet, and then we get back at it. Okay, conditioning, another favorite topic, right? Can you make it fun? Right? The first college team that I coached, we were in the middle of preseason, and I said to them, okay, get down here on the end line. And they looked at me like the color ran out of their faces. And I just wanted to set up a drill, count them off, put them in teams. They thought for sure, oh God, it's suicides, we knew it. We're gonna be running for the next 40 minutes. And I was just like, whoa, okay, no, right? Can you make it fun? Can you use different sports? We used to play handball, ultimate frisbee, right? I'm getting them to move around. I'm getting my conditioning. They're communicating. They're moving the ball or the frisbee, right? Relay races if the kids are younger. Small-sided games. By the end of that same season with that college team, they said, oh, coach, you're sneaky with that conditioning stuff, right? You had us doing it in the drills, in the small-sided games, constantly moving, right? Which is much more game-like anyway, okay? So think about that relative to the age group that you work with. Here's some fun ideas maybe you can incorporate into your next practice. get conditioning. And my favorite one was the one prior to this one. They're competing, they're thinking, and they're sprinting because they were having to play tic-tac-toe and sprint to the line and beat their partner, right? All kinds of things that they worked into that one. All right. Scrimmaging. We usually work this into our practice, right? Let athletes officiate, right? Gives them a different perspective on the game. They realize, gosh, this officiating thing is not so easy, right? Also gives them a different, gives the other teammates an opportunity to practice honoring the game. Respect for officials, right? Lots of times we would do this. The coach is ref, and they make terrible calls, like horrible calls. So the kids can practice learning how to manage their emotions around that, okay? And then another one, modifying levels of competition. Like keep them guessing, keep them challenged. Make them play with odd number, like one team has more players than the other. One team can only use their non-dominant foot, whatever it is. So you keep challenging them in different ways, okay? Remember we talked about the emotional tank? E-tank filling should be happening throughout your practice all the time. That is a cultural. On this team, we fill everyone's emotional tank. Everyone's responsible. It's not just coach's job, right? Everyone's responsible for supporting their teammates, high-fiving, helping them get over mistakes, helping them learn new things, right? Reminding them about effort and modeling it, okay? 2-minute drill, I think, is a great one if you feel like your kids are dragging, right? Really low energy. For 2 minutes, set a watch, relentless positivity for 2 minutes. Has to be truthful and specific praise, but just train yourself and any assistants that you have, look just for positive stuff and just bombard the kids with all the good things they're doing, like stream of consciousness. Not perfect, just positive, okay? Really tends to fill up those tanks quickly, okay? We talked about player of the day earlier, right? One player who's really got an empty tank, they're your focus. If you have assistants, make sure they know about it, and your job is to be truthful and specific, but to really hone in on ways you can help fill that tank. Notice things. Say them publicly about that player, all the positives that you can find, okay? Fun activities that you can do. Winner's circle. Everyone circles up at the end of practice and sort of shares positive contributions of each member of the team, okay? Here's a quick example of how the Cubs, believe it or not, had a winner's circle.
The defending champion Chicago Cubs have a unique way of team building that could be a hidden secret to their tremendous success. Before batting practice, strength coach Tim Buss gathers players together for a bonding moment that features individual players saying something nice about one of their teammates. What some on the outside may interpret as corny has turned into an interesting method of bringing the team even closer together.
They actually do this before batting practice, right? Fill up those emotional tanks right before they get started batting, okay? Winner's circles can be really, really powerful because not only are kids reminded like, oh, hey, like I'm actually contributing, they hear it from their peers, right? And it's not just the kids who are scoring goals, making saves, they start to understand because we're modeling it, what are some other things that we value on this team? Hard effort, hustle, right? Supporting a teammate, collecting the gear afterward. It's all part of being a team, right? Pitching in, helping out. Those are the things that you value are the things that you want to talk about and reward, okay? And mention them. One of my high school teams did a winner circle, at the end of practice, and they came to when it was so valuable to them that they would never leave a practice or a game without their winner circle. They tell their parents, wait, we're not ready yet, because it was that valuable to them, and they were highly successful, okay? Again, we're looking at things that increase performance, create a positive culture. Research shows that this stuff actually works, okay? Okay, team conversations. They are important to have, okay? Keep it short. How many of you have been talking to kids and then you see like deer in the headlights look, right? Checked out, not listening. We've all had it happen, right? Keep it short. Our 3-2-3 framework, right? 3 minutes at the start of practice, 2 minutes in the middle, 3 minutes at the end, okay? But just keep it short and sweet. Lots of times if I was explaining a drill, I'd give them a really brief, quick explanation and send them out and get them started. And then bring them back if you got to make changes, rather than like a long explanation at the beginning where they don't hear half of it anyway, right? And also, once they realize that it's going to be a quick explanation, they start to pay attention quicker, right? Okay, our overall goal is to develop player coaches, right? It takes longer than just telling them what to do. But especially in soccer, we need to help them learn how to make decisions on their own out there without us, right? We can only do that if we're teaching them how to do it, right? So we're asking questions, getting feedback, responding to the feedback, okay? It does take longer, but it's so valuable, right? They need to be making decisions and problem solving on their own with their teammates on the field, okay? Ask them for input. Doesn't mean you have to do exactly what they suggest, right? But ask them, hey, what did you think about the game yesterday? What are some things you think we should work on? Right? What do you think maybe we should do differently? It's all important information, right? They need to feel heard, so make sure that you acknowledge that and say, hey, that's a good point, I'll take that under consideration, or whatever, okay? The conversations are important, and you want to make sure that they are feeling heard, okay? All right, closing ritual. Most of us have it, might be brief, right? But it's important to kind of have that closure at the end of practice. Try to end consistently for any number of reasons. Can you end on a fun note, right? Doing something competitive but fun. World Cup, usually, kids will go nuts for that for about an hour, right? Whatever that is. You can also bring in some culture questions, life lessons questions. What did you learn today about teamwork? Or, hey, I really noticed that John was so persistent in practicing and learning that skill, right? Trying to get them to stick with it, stay with it, even when it's hard and it's not working, okay? And then if you can, preview the next practice or competition, right? So they know what's coming next, okay? All right, assessment. How many of you guys think about the practice after it's happened? Most of you? What kinds of things do you think about? Just sort of like, did it go good, did it not go good, or what's your sort of post-practice assessment like? Okay. What worked, what didn't work? Do you think back to what your objectives were at the beginning of your practice? See, yeah, was I close? Was I not close? Did we get it? What else? Anything else? Yeah. What do you ask your captains? Love it. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yes. So checking in with captains, if you have captains at a high school team, am I guessing? Yeah. Great opportunity to get the temperature of what happened. How are you feeling? What did you think about this drill? And even more importantly, I think what you mentioned, if I paraphrase it correctly, was, what did this drill teach you? So you're finding out whether my intention for them to learn X is actually what they got out of it, right? So that's great feedback as well, okay? Revisit your objectives and outcomes, right? And I would add to that, as well as your player interactions, right? Those interpersonal relationships are really important. Sometimes we flub it up, right? Maybe we don't give them enough time, or we brush them off, so it's important to sort of think about that, because actually those are the kinds of things that actually tend to stay with me. But if you sort of revisit those as well and think, do I need to check in with that kid at the next practice or whatever, see how they're doing, say, hey, I'm really sorry, I didn't give you enough time, can we talk about it, those kinds of things, right? And then, again, adjust your plan for next practice or competition, okay? So don't forget about those player interactions. They're just as important as any of the X's and O's that you worked on at that practice. All right? So again, components of this dynamic practice, you can weave your culture into everything that you do. That is when they get it. They don't get it when you tell it to them at the beginning of the season, right? They don't get it when, when something goes wrong in a game and you say, I can't believe that you're not doing X, Y, and Z. They get it because of the consistency, the modeling, right? They're watching what we're doing. We're talking about it, and then we're modeling it, okay? Sometimes you have to make the connection for them in a practice by noticing what someone's doing and saying something about it. And then they'll figure, oh, okay, that coach really values that hustle, right? Or that team support, or whatever that is, okay? All right. There's a gremlin here. My screen's stuck. Okay, anyway. Oh, now we skipped ahead. Okay, there we go. All right, so in closing, when we're talking about culture, don't underestimate the value of it. Okay, it's so important, and it's worth the time that you spend on it. Okay, here are some resources where you can find some more information about some of the things we talked about today and things that I had to go through pretty quickly, right? When you sign in, and I'll put that screen up next, you'll get weekly coaching emails from us and access to digital resources. Okay, PCA DevZone is the website. I encourage you to check it out. Tons of video clips, lots of advice from coaches, high-level players. Last thing I would just want to ask if anyone has any additional questions. Yes? Totally up to you. So the question was, the example that we showed about the Sugar Shaker Award, right? Like most valuable teammate. How often would you do it? Totally up to you, right? Maybe you have a MVT of the week, right? Maybe you do it every day. Depends maybe how often you see your team, right? They'll know how important it is to you by how often you do it, how consistently you do it, right? Set it up at the beginning. We're going to do this weekly, or we're going to do this. Lots of folks will give out like game balls at the end of a game. So it's, you could make your Sugar Shaker a post-game instead of a game ball. So it's not always about performance, but it's really up to you how often you want to do something like that. Okay? Other questions? Anything? Yeah. What becomes a popularity? Sugar. So he said, what if it becomes a popularity contest and a few people get left out? Continuously get left out. What do you think about that? Yeah. Did you want to say that? You can say you can only win it once. Something over here? Okay. Make sure that there's more than one nomination, I would say. Make it clear that, the same person can't win every week. One of the things I love about the winner's circle, for instance, a little bit different, is that when you do that, coach always goes last, right? So player A says something nice about a contribution player B made. Player B says something about player C. So nobody gets doubled up, and coach always goes last to make sure that everybody has something noted about them about a positive contribution, right? So again, think about those things ahead of time, right? So that you're consistent. Hopefully it won't be an issue. But I think it's also important to let kids know, like she talked a little bit about what's a Sugar Shaker, what does it mean, what are we rewarding, like what do you have to do to get it, if you will. But like what's important, why did she call it a Sugar Shaker? What is it about sugar? It's sweet. How does that translate, right? Who on our team makes it sweeter, makes us all better, right? So she actually sort of explained what she meant, what she was looking for, and didn't leave it up to them to decide how they interpreted it. Because again, it might not be what you intended, right? Someone could interpret sweet as, Sugar Shaker as like, who do I like the best? To your point, right? Make sense? Okay, any last questions? I know it's getting towards the end of the day. Awesome, okay. Here is this, thank you for your commitment. Thank you for all the time that you spend coaching. I know how much time it takes. Here is the screen for you to sign in. Please do this because it's a real benefit to you. We will not share your email address with anyone else. The phone number to text is at the top, 650-763-2405. In the body of the text, it's really important that you have hashtag 153057, because that indicates you actually were at this workshop. Okay? Under that, first and last name, and then an email address. You should get an auto response email that says, thank you for attending the workshop. That's how you know that you were registered. Okay? Awesome. Let me know if you have any issues connecting with this. Thanks so much for being here. Good luck with your seasons, and thanks for all that you do for kids. All right? Thank you.